Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending today's webinar. We have a few new people today, so that's good. So we've got a few extras on our live webinar. For anybody who attends the live webinar, you'll actually get access to a certificate where we'll provide you with a certificate that states that you attended the live webinar. We're trying to encourage as many people as possible to attend the live webinar, because what we find, or what I find in particular, is when you attend the live webinar, I get more interaction and I'm able to answer your questions directly. So I'm very excited when I get more people online, because it means I'm able to answer your questions directly. And it's much more fun when I get to chat to other people than sitting online by myself. So thank you for attending today. I really do appreciate it. Hi, I'm getting a couple of highs coming in. Hi, Stanley. Hi, Inga. Hope you're going well. Thank you very much for attending today. Okay, if you have any questions or anything, please put it in the chat section on the left-hand side of the screen. Any meeting has done a big update, so it looks very different from what it used to look like. So I'm finding it quite difficult. I might just turn some sound on here so I can hear some things. Okay, it's looking quite different. So I'm just learning where everything is. So it took me a little bit to get started this morning. Okay, so on today's webinar for June 2017, we'll be reviewing Standards 2.1, 2.2 and DPR 6.1. Because at the end of this month, your quality indicators for anybody who is an existing RTO, so this isn't for initial registrations, this is anybody who's an existing RTO, you'll be required to submit your VetMIS data report by the end of this month. So I'm going to go through what is a VetMIS data report and what do you have to do in that report to submit your data. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, this webinar forms part of your continuous improvement process under Standard 2.2, which we are reviewing today. So very much these webinars are part of complying to Standard 2.2. So it's really important that you attend these webinars as part of your requirements as an RTO to do your continuous improvement. Now, it's not a requirement that ASQA has. It's a requirement that we've put together in our package when you do a membership or a Kickstart Reboot or Cricos package, that you hold these monthly meetings. And the main reason why is the monthly meetings is what ties together all your continuous improvement. So it's really important that you attend these webinars so that you can learn how do our policies and procedures apply to your RTO and how you can implement them into your RTO. So, so it's really important that you attend these webinars. Okay, following this webinar, you should hold your monthly quality and compliance meeting and include in your minutes that you attended this webinar. Thankfully, today we'll actually be going through the process of the monthly meeting, and I'll be looking at our agenda and minutes template today. So you'll actually learn what you should be doing as part of your monthly meetings through this webinar. Following the webinar, you should also review your quality and compliance manual and look at standards 2.1 and 2.2 and actually go through the standards that we're reviewing today to identify, are there any improvements? Are you actually following the policies and procedures? Are they relevant to what your practices are? And if you are following them, great. Do you need to review them? If not, is there a reason why you're not following that policy and procedure? And could it be that you need to contextualise the policy and procedure to your organisation? So, as per the policies and procedures for continuous improvement, you should undertake a review of the policy and procedure to ensure that it's actually what you are doing. You should also review any documentation related to these standards that we're reviewing today to ensure that they are kept up to date with your practices as well. So we'll be going through a few forms and documentation today that are relevant to clauses 2.2 and also the DPR standards. We'll be having a look at that as well. Okay. So as I stated, if you have any questions whatsoever, please add them to your chat so you can should be able to see on your left hand side there are a chat box where you can put your messages in there. And yeah, by all means, ask me any questions, because that's what I'm here for, is to answer your questions. Okay, the first standard we're going to be looking at is 2.1. Basically, 2.1 means if you are non-compliant with any other legislation, and that includes the standards for RTOs, you'll also be non-compliant with this standard, standard 2.1. So that's basically what it is. So our policy and procedure is that you include on your CEO's position description that they are responsible for all the standards. And in our package of all of our documentation is a position description for the CEO that every CEO should sign as part of your CEO should sign in your organization, that states that you will be compliant and that the CEO is responsible for compliance against the standards for RTOs. Hi, Donna. I just got a hi from Donna. Hi, how are you? Okay, so if you are the CEO or you have, and you should have a CEO, within all your documentation is a position description for the CEO. They should sign that position description that states that they are responsible for ensuring that the RTO will comply with all of the standards, and in particular 2.1. So have a look at the policy and procedure in the Q&C manual under standard 2.1, and you'll get a better understanding of what is that requirement under 2.1. When you go to audit, if you have any non-compliances with any of the other clauses, when you go to audit, this clause will automatically be non-compliant as well. It's just an automatic trigger if you have any other non-compliances. So it's, as you would guess, this would be the number one non-compliance at an ASPA audit would be this clause, because it gets triggered by any other clause. Okay, so now we'll go on to 2.2. So standard 2.2 basically states that the RTO systematically monitors the RTO's training and assessment strategies and practices to ensure ongoing compliance with standard 1, and systematically evaluates and uses the outcomes of the evaluations to continually improve the RTO's training and assessment practices. Evaluation information includes, but is not limited to, quality indicator under clause 7.5, validation outcomes, client, trainer and assessor feedback, complaints and appeals. We'll be going into a lot more detail about what is that data that you're going to review. Okay, so basically our continuous improvement strategy is that you'll collect, analyze and act on data. So you'll collect feedback from industry, students and trainers. You'll also collect feedback within your own organisation as well. So they're going to be opportunities for improvement, doing internal audits and things like that as well. Analysing is where you analyse that data to identify and get a better insight into your organisation. Now, what has happened in the history of RTOs is a lot of RTOs have collected data, then shoved it in a box under a desk, and it never gets looked at again. That's not what ASPA want you to do. They want you to collect data, analyze it, review it, and go, okay, what can we learn from this data, and then act on that data. And then, so acting on the data is using that data collected to improve your training and assessment practices. So how can you improve your RTO based on that data you've collected? So it's not putting it in a box under a desk. It's actually collecting data, reviewing it, analyzing it, and then going, okay, how can we improve our practices based on that data that we've collected? Like, we are continually improving our policies and procedures, forms and documentation through the audits that we attend. So we're collecting data all the time, analyzing that data through the audits that we attend, and also doing professional development. So we do a lot of professional development within our organisation. So reading newsletters and going to conferences, doing webinars. We do all sorts of webinars in the industry as well. And then we analyse that and then act on that by improving our policies and procedures, forms and documentation. So we're going to have a big review of all of our policies and procedures and forms and documentation over the next couple of months. And I also believe that we'll also have a change in legislation later this year, so there will be another review. So we're currently doing a big review of the policies and procedures And what we're doing is we're looking at all of the policies and procedures in relation to some changes that have happened this year. And the big thing that's changed this year is ASQA have changed their audit model. And the audit model now is, from the beginning of this year, is very much focused on the student journey. So they've changed the way they audit the standards through a process of the audit journey. So the student journey. ASQA have currently using a new audit tool that is based on this student journey model. Unfortunately, it hasn't been released yet. So I will be going through that and looking at the audit tool, but the new student journey audit tool hasn't been released yet from ASQA. So when that is, we're actually going to update our whole policy and procedure manual based on the new audit model. So the Q&C manual, which is the quality and compliance manual, that's been written based on the standards, but also the user guide that ASQA released on how to comply with the standards, and also the ASQA audit tool. So the whole manual has been mapped out against all of that documentation. And that's how I've written that policy and procedure manual against all of those ASQA documents, but also I've written it against what we've learned at audit and how we can improve our practices based on what we've learned at audit. And that's going from the worst case scenario auditor to the best case scenario auditor. We go with the worst case. So what is the worst case scenario auditor that you're going to get, and what practices do you need to have in place to meet the requirements of that worst case scenario auditor? Unfortunately, we're meant to have a continuous improvement practice process within our own organisation, and we are required to meet the standards. But unfortunately, when it comes to auditors, the auditors have their own opinion on how you should comply against those standards. So you're going to have a variety of differences when you have different auditors. So we can have one auditor that is very much story of practice mode. So they'll look at the story of how you go through the student journey with your practices, with looking after the student, and they're very much visual when they're looking at your audit process, and audio. So So what they're doing is they're listening to what you put into practice within your RTO. Whereas you can have the worst case scenario auditor where they're very much dotting the I's, crossing the T's. They'll pick up typos. They'll go into the nitty gritty of your practices within your RTO. So we're still getting into the practice of what is this student journey audit focus, and I can't wait for the new audit tool to come out so I can have a better understanding of what that process is. I've seen some of them with some of the auditors, the student journey process, but we haven't actually been able to get access to that audit tool yet. So we haven't been able to actually identify how we can improve our policies and procedures based on that. But yeah, so the way I've written these policies and procedures is it's very much focused on what do you expect at audit and what will the auditors be expecting. But it's very much a focus with the policies and procedures. It's not just a tick process of you are compliant. It's very much a process of a practical application within your RTO. So whenever you have a question about anything within your RTO, one thing you should really do is go straight to your Q&C manual to identify what our process is in there, because I've done it from a practical approach on how you can actually implement this within your RTO. And one of the key things of having these monthly webinars is to teach you and keep you up to date instead of having to do a crash course into how to comply with the standards in one day. I do an RTO compliance workshop, which is in one day. This is, we actually review and we go deeper into a couple of clauses each month. So it breaks it down for you. So each month we actually reviewing a couple of standards so that we can really dive in and actually identify what is it that you need to do to implement into your organisation. So that's one of the main reasons why we came up with a monthly webinar, is so that we can have a continuous improvement approach throughout the whole year not just when you are up for audit. Each month we're reviewing a couple of standards, so you're improving your practices. So just by attending these webinars, you are collecting, analysing and acting on relevant data just by doing this webinar. Much easier. This webinar is much easier to do than having to review your policies and procedures. So a great way, I think it's a great way of doing it, and with minimising the impact on your time. Okay, I know I waffled on a bit there, but for me, it's really important that you attend these webinars. And one of the main reasons why we had these webinars implemented in the first place is so that it would be an easier process for you to learn the policies and procedures, but also continually updating your policies and procedures. Okay. So within our documentation, we actually have a document called a continuous improvement strategy, and it's part of your policy and procedure document. So when you go into Unicorn, you'll see under policies and procedures, under your documentation, under policies and procedures, is a continuous improvement strategy. So we're going to be having a look at that today. We're going to be having a look at the documents within the continuous improvement strategy to give you a better idea of the data that we're collecting. So basically the continuous improvement strategy is looking at all of the data that we collect, analyze and act on. So we'll be looking at, so it's actually every single one of our documents is listed, or not every single one, but the majority of them is listed in here in the continuous improvement strategy on how you'll review your data. So the continuous improvement strategy is looking at who is the stakeholders that we'll be collecting data from. What is the data that we're collecting on a variety of different forms? So, for example, complaints and appeals form, or continuous opportunity for improvement form. What is the data we're collecting? So this actually outlines in this continuous improvement strategy document the data we collect and who are we collecting it from. What different mechanisms we use for collecting that data, when we'll collect that data. So there's specific times of the year that we'll need to collect data, or there's specific incidences that will where we may need to collect that data as well. How the data will be analysed, who is responsible for that data. So when we collect that data and analyse it, who's responsible for acting on it, how the data will be acted upon, and implementation for improvements and monitoring of that data. So it's really important that you should be looking at that document when you're looking at your policies and procedures and forms and documentation. So I'm just going to see if I can share. This is new. Yep, I can share my screen. Okay, okay, turn off. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my webcam so I can share the screen. Okay. Okay. So this is all new. So we're going to share. I'm going to share a screen. Yep, cool. All right. So soon you should be able to see my screen, which I have the continuous improvement strategy on. So I've taken off the webinar so you can see that. There is content playing. I assume you want to stop, cancel. All right. I'm hoping you can see my screen. Okay, so we're going to go to the continuous improvement strategy. So you can download this document from your Unicorn. So go on to Unicorn and you'll be able to download this document. So we have the continuous improvement strategy. And basically what this document is, looking at the data that we collect. So the continuous improvement strategy involves the collection of relevant information or data, analysing that data, and then applying corrective actions to ensure ongoing compliance of the RTO. So relevant information is collected through actively engaging with key stakeholders before, during, and after training and assessment. So the strategy is broken down into two sections, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is an overview of the data that we collect, and part 2 is the data collected on RTO forms. So what are the documents we collect? So part 1, we're looking at the overview of that data. So we're looking at the mechanisms. So basically we're collecting data on training and assessment, client services and management systems. We're collecting a variety of different data through different mechanisms, and then we have a time frame on how we'll do that. Then we have who's responsible, and ultimately the CEO or RTO manager is responsible for the collection of data. and how we're going to collect that. So you should review this continuous improvement strategy in line with your Q&C manual. And it's one of the key documents when you're preparing for audit that you should review this document. So have a look at this continuous improvement strategy. We'll print this document and have it ready for initial registration and re-registration clients. When we're getting you ready for Kickstart or Reboot package, when we're getting you ready for audit, we'll have this document printed and in your folder or in your audit folder when you go to audit. So it's one of the key documents that we require you to review when you go to audit. So part 2 of this document is we actually go through all of the documents that are within your compliance package, so your Vivacity membership package, but also all of everything that you get in your Kickstart and Reboot package. These are all the documents. And so basically what it does is it explains, I'm just going to find an interesting one. Okay, enrollment form. Enrollment agreement form. So on the enrollment agreement form, the types of data we collect is the student details course of enrollment, but also all the EVETMIS data that we need to collect as part of your requirements for submitting an EVETMIS compliant EVETMIS report to ASQA. And it's all that EVETMIS data. So EVETMIS data is what year did you complete school, what language do you speak at home, to what level do you speak English, what country were you born in, what's the highest level qualification that you've achieved. That's the type of EVETMIS data that we collect. We also get a signature on that enrollment agreement form to verify that that student understands their rights and responsibilities. So that's one of the key things where we get the student to sign it. We also get the someone from the RTO to sign the enrollment agreement form as well. So we're collecting data from the student. So we're collecting data from the student. The time frame, the student completes this form prior to course commencement. We analyse that data. So data collected on the form is reviewed by the trainer and or RTO staff before being entered into the student management system, so your database. So the data we collect on that enrolment form is to be entered into your database, ensuring that all the relevant data has been collected, including EVETMIS data for the purpose of reporting to the regulatory body. We act on it by, so we're in this header here, act on it by, the data collected is entered into the student management system as per the records management policy and procedure in your Q&C manual. So under standard 3.4, each year the RTO is required to submit an EVETMIS data report to NCVR or ASQA. Please refer to DPR, standard DPR 4 for the procedure. So we actually have the relevant standard in the right-hand column as well that you need, that relates to this form. And you'll note on every form at the bottom of the form is what standard that relates to. So you'll see in your footer of every document in your package that you get from us, we'll have the relevant standard that relates to that document. So it's easy. So if you need to know more information about that document, it will have the standard in there, which then relates to the Q&C manual. So you can just go to the Q&C manual. So you know for this document here, you can go to the Q&C manual and look at standard 2.2 and get a better understanding of what the policy and procedure is for that form from 2.2. So we've tied them all together so that when you go to the document, you can actually go to the Q&C manual and see what the policy and procedure is for that form. So it's closed the loop and we've got the whole policy and procedure here. So you can see why this continuous improvement strategy is a really important document in relation to your policies and procedures, but also in relation to preparing for an audit. So data is monitored within the student management system and reported annually to the regulator each year. The RTO manager is responsible, and this is a standard that relates to. So good idea. So following this meeting, you should download this document and actually review it in preparation or even just as part of your continuous improvement of reviewing this standard. But this document gives you a snapshot of all of the standards. So all of the documents, sorry. It gives you the data we collect on that document. So here's an LNN assessment tool. So it tells you that the data that we collect on that is the assessment to ascertain the student's language, literacy, and numeracy requirements. The student is the person who we're collecting the data from. The time frame is we collect it is to be completed by the student prior to course commencement if they do not currently hold a Certificate 3 or higher. So this all ties in with the policies and procedures. The trainer or RTO manager is to review the document prior to course commencement to ascertain whether the student has the required skills and knowledge to undertake the training. If the student does not demonstrate that they have the required skills and knowledge, the trainer should follow up the process within the Q&C manual under standard 1.7. The trainer assessor is to review and monitor the student progress on an ongoing basis. So this should be monitored ongoing. So it shouldn't be that you just do an LNN assessment at the start and then not review on an ongoing basis. It should be an ongoing basis. So the trainer is responsible for this form and the data we're collecting, and it comes under standard 1.7. So you can see how this document works. So it's quite an involved document and really, really important in prepping for your audit. Okay, so that's the continuous improvement strategy document. So we'll go back to slides. I'll go back to playing the slides. That's one down. All right, that's your continuous improvement strategy. So we have a very simple process for continuous improvement. We want to keep it as simple as possible when you're going through your continuous improvement of your organisation. So the process is you collect data, feedback from industry, employers, trainers, and students. You review that feedback and then act on that feedback to ensure that you are addressing your industry and student needs. Then from that feedback that we collect, we adjust your training and assessment to address that feedback. So in particular, when you're writing your training and assessment strategy, one of the key components of writing a TAS is collecting data, and one of those key ones is industry engagement. So we have a industry survey form where you collect data from that industry survey and then incorporate that into your TAS. The other one is holding regular meetings to discuss and monitor the feedback and action taken to implement change based on that feedback. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what you do to ensure continuous improvement throughout your organisation. So we just went through the strategy document. So that's your continuous improvement strategy document. Okay, so in a nutshell, the data we collect, so you can go to that continuous improvement strategy document, and that has a whole heap of ways that we collect data with different forms. But in a snapshot, basically from industry, we do industry surveys. You can do a training needs analysis, and it's also, there's an employer quality indicator form that they can complete. Within the RTO, assessment validation is one key component for collecting data to improve your training and assessment tools. Holding your monthly meeting is a big part of collecting data for improving your practices within your RTO. And then another one is whenever you identify an opportunity for improvement within your RTO, you should complete an opportunity for improvement form. That's a key component within your RTO. Students, so student data we collect for students is we have a training feedback form, a quality indicator form, also a VETMIS data form, complaints and appeals, and opportunity for improvement form. So it's a really good component of collecting data from your students is those forms. On a monthly basis, your trainer should be completing a trainer's report on a monthly basis and then submitting that report to you as an RTO so that you're getting feedback on a regular basis. We recommend at least once a month they should be completing that form so that you're collecting data from that form on a regular basis. This is so you've got feedback coming from your trainer assessor on a regular basis and then acting on that feedback. And then trainers and assessors can also complete an opportunity for improvement form. So these are the key documents that you should be collecting data from your from different stakeholders, industry, RTO, students, and trainers and assessors. They're the key ones, but go to that continuous improvement strategy for more documents where we collect data. We've got lots of documents that we collect data, but they're the key ones. So here are some key ones. So industry consultation. So this is one of the key documents that we get you to complete as part of when we're writing a training and assessment strategy. But this industry survey form should be an ongoing process. So it shouldn't be that you just do the industry survey in prep for an initial registration or re-registration or writing a TAS. It should be an ongoing process that you're doing on a regular basis. So whenever you go to add a new qualification to your scope, you should be doing industry survey. It should be something that you also get your industry to complete on a regular basis. Like at least once every 6 months, you should be just doing a flash industry consultation survey form that you're sending out. So what the industry consultation form does is it formalizes informal consultation with industry through monthly meeting by discussing who did you meet with? I think I've got this mixed up. So this is mixed up with the Q&C meeting. But anyway, what it does is through a formal process, you are conducting industry consultation through this survey and distributing that survey and then getting feedback on how can you improve your practices basically to meet industry needs. So I'm just going to bring up that's a snapshot of the form. I'm just going to, we do go into this one further when we look at standards 1.5 and 1.6. So I won't go into that in more detail. If you want to know more about the industry survey, review the webinar on standards 1.1 to 1.6. So 1.1 to 1.4 is your TAS, 1.5 to 1.6 is industry consultation. So to find out more about industry consultation, review the webinar on standard 1.5 and 6. You should have received by now a document that has a spreadsheet that has every single webinar that we've held in the last month. We keep that webinar sheet up to date with every new webinar, and it gives you a hyperlink that is unique, that not everyone can get access to that. You get a unique YouTube link to those webinars, so which you can use, give forward to any of your staff members within your RTO. It's a unique link that only people with that link can get access to that webinar. So we have the YouTube, all of the webinars are uploaded to YouTube, but that link is unique to you. Okay, trainer's report. So a trainer's report should be completed by your trainer on a monthly basis prior to your Q&C meeting. It's a really good way to collect feedback from your trainer on their experiences within their training. If your trainer is attending the meetings, the report should be read by the trainer at your meeting. So I'm going to open up the trainer's report document and go into more detail. Yes. Go to application window. We're going to have a look at that document. All right. So I'm going to show you the trainer's report document now, which your trainers should complete on a monthly basis and then submit to you prior to you holding your monthly Q&C webinar. Sorry, Q&C meeting. Okay. So you should see the trainer's report document now. Okay. All right, cool. So the trainer's report is this document here. Your trainer should complete this on a monthly basis, or we recommend a monthly basis because that's a good way to collect, but it depends on how often you're running your training. If your trainers are only running training like once a quarter, then they should do the trainer's report for that quarter. If they're running weekly training, then they should complete this report on a monthly basis where you're collecting that data from them. So basically, it's getting feedback from your trainer on how are they going with their training. So the first one we have is give an example of your best training session student you had in the last month and why. And basically, it's getting feedback from the student on trainer on what they think is the best session they've had or student that they've had. Give an example of the most challenging session or student you've had in the last month. You've lost some sound, have you, Donna? You should be fine at this end. It may be your access that you've got. through your internet. So we'll still get the recording. So hopefully you'll come back. I'm just sending a message, just making sure that you can all hear me. Okay. Okay. No, you can't hear. Can everybody else hear? Okay, so other people can hear me, so that's fine. So it must be something to do with your internet, Donna. So that's the reason why you can't hear me. So you might have to have a look at your, everyone else can hear. Okay, cool. All right, good. Thank you that everybody else can hear. So Donna, you might want to check your internet to make sure that you can hear. You will get a copy of a recording of this webinar following the webinar. So Donna, it might be best. I think my computer had a, okay, cool. So she thinks it might be a computer. Okay, I'm just going to write a message to Donna. Okay, cool. You'll just watch it. All right, cool. It still makes sense if you're not hearing me, but you can have a look at the form. Okay, so we're looking at this form. So give an example of the most challenging session or student that you've had in the last month. So this is a great way to get feedback on what are the challenges your trainer is getting on a monthly basis. So that you can identify how can you improve your practices based on those challenges that they're getting. So and so it's a good way to improve your practices. It's an excellent way of doing it through that. Do you believe one of your assessment tools needs validating? So it's a great way. So if your trainers and assessors, because your trainers and assessors are using your assessment tools on a regular basis, it's a great way to identify do your assessment tools need validating, because it might be that there's some issues that they're having with it. So if yes, what tool specifically requires validating, and what specific area of the tool do you believe may need updating of that tool? So it's a great way to identify, because your trainer assessor is using your assessment tools on a regular basis, maybe they've identified that you should do a validation of one of your assessment tools because it's having some issues. Do you believe that your students were prepared for your last class or visit in the last month? Yes, no. And if no, why? Why? How should we respond to that? Do you believe your current training methods used needs changing, so needs updating? So it might be your PowerPoint that you're using needs updating. If yes, why? So how can we improve our practices based on feedback from them? Have any recent changes within the organisation affected you? So it could be a policy and procedure, it could be a document we're implementing, it could be something we're not doing within the RTO. So it's a great way to get feedback from your trainer to ensure that they're having a good understanding of your organisation's practices. What suggestions would you make to further refine these changes? So not only, I say this all the time with staff, with our team, or I should say talent, with our talent, one of the things that I say to them is don't come to me with a solution, not just a problem. So if you can identify a suggestion on how we can improve our practices based on some feedback, give me some suggestions on how we can improve our practices. What challenges have you faced during this period, so in the last month? What successes have you enjoyed during this period, so in the last month? What have you think you can is a success that we've had in the last month? So it's a great way to get feedback. Do you have any suggestions for improvement? If yes, have you completed an opportunity for improvement form in the last month? So it's another good way to get feedback from your trainers and assessors on how to improve your practices. So we're going to be having a look at the opportunities for improvement form today as well. Do you have any concerns in relation to any of your students' progress? If yes, have you discussed these concerns with your supervisor or your RTO manager or the CEO or something like that? Do you have any student concerns? Please record any students' concerns you may have about any students and their progress through their training. If there is not enough room on this form, please attach a document, any other documents that you want to this form. So it should be, this is where they can give you feedback on a student, outline of a concern, what may be some student concerns. A student concern could be that they're falling behind in their work. It could be that they're unable to do their assessments. It could be, a student concern could be that they think that there is a language barrier where the student may need some assistance with their languages. It could be that they don't think the student is suitable for this course. So this is different ways, different concerns that your trainer may have. It could, so other feedback that they can give you is disruptive behaviour. Please record any disruptive behaviour that may be affecting other students' progress or ability to engage with trainers. So this is in particular for face-to-face training. So this is where your trainer can give you some feedback on some disruptive behaviour that they might be having with a student. Okay, so the last thing on this form is continuous improvement forms. Please record here if you have completed any of the following continuous improvement forms over the last month, who you submitted the form to and what was submitted. So it might be an opportunity for improvement form, complaints and appeals form, WHS incident form, or an assessment validation form. Who did they submit it to? So this is a great way to record. Are they using our documents? One thing, and it reminds the trainer that we have these forms and that they should be using these forms. So because trainers and assessors can do a complaint as well, but it reminds them we have these forms and this is the mechanism that they should be using for providing feedback. So if you have any trainers and assessors who are doing filling in these forms, it's great. It's a great way of doing it. Okay, stop screen share. Okay, I'm going to go back to, cancel that. I'm going to go back to the form PowerPoint. So back to that. Okay. Do you have any questions about the trainer's report, or if you have any questions on any of the documents that I'm looking at, please throw them in the chat section there. But it's a good form for you to be reviewing. Just a sec. I just need to open the door. It's getting really hot in my room. I'm just going to open my door and drink some water. Is the air conditioning being turned off? It's really hot in here. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm just getting really hot. Okay, so that's the trainer's report form. Okay. All right. All right, that's that one. Next one is quality indicators. So the quality indicator form. So I'm gonna go into some details of the quality indicator form and what you need to do, how you should be using the quality indicator form on a regular basis to get feedback from students and trainers and assessors on not trainers, assessors, industry as well from the quality indicators. So the quality indicators form should be distributed to students at least once during their course of enrolment. Quality indicator form is a required document that the government requires you to complete on a regular basis so that you're getting feedback from your students and industry and improving your practices based on that feedback that you're getting from trainers and industry. So, students in industry. So it's a really good form that you should be completing on a regular basis and at least once during the course of enrolment for your students. And when you get feedback from student on these quality indicator forms, you should be reviewing that at your monthly Q&C manual, so that meeting, so that you're reviewing on a monthly basis. Okay, complete the quality. So once a year, you need to complete the quality indicator summary report, and then submit it in June each year and submit it to ASCO. So that's due this month. So I'm just gonna, I'm just going to see, you can get, we have the quality indicator form in your Unicorn documents. So you can download the quality indicator. So if you go into your documents with quality indicator, if you go to your documents in Unicorn, you'll get access to the quality indicator form. So I'm just going to download that now and I'm going to generate that and the report. I'm going to have a look at that. Download the PDF. Okay, so what we're going to do is have a look at these forms today. So I'm going to just share my desktop with you again. Okay, so we're just going to have a look at the quality indicator form. This is the report that you need to submit on a yearly basis to ASQA. So I'm going to have a look at this form first that you should be submitting this month. So if you're an initial registration, you don't need to do this now. This will be in the future that you'll need to do this. If you're a Vivacity member or a reboot package, you should be doing this month. So I'll just reiterate that. If you're an initial registration Kickstart package, you don't need to do this quality indicator this month, but next year, once you're registered, you will need to do this. So just confirming that with you. Okay, so this quality indicator annual summary report needs to be submitted on a yearly basis to ASQA to giving feedback on the quality indicators that you're collecting, so data that you're collecting, and how you're improving your practices based on that. So the quality indicator summary report should include your RTO number and legal name. Now, we have this document in Unicorn. When you generate it, it'll put your RTO number in it and legal name already in it for you. So that'll be in there for you. So basically what you do in this form is you complete how many surveys, learner engagement surveys have you issued, so distributed to your students, and how many surveys have come back, how many have you received back, and then you do a ratio of what that response is. So how many did you send out and how many have you got back, and what percentage of those surveys did you distribute have you received back? They just want to know how many forms are you distributing and getting back, and what's that response rate been like? Now, the employer satisfaction survey is one that you distribute if you've got employers that you're working with. So if you're doing, it's a good way as part of your industry consultation to get them employers to complete. But it's if you have employers that are engaging you for your training. So if employers are paying for their staff to come and do training with you, they should be doing this employer satisfaction form. So not all RTOs will have employers who will be engaging you as an RTO. So this is only relevant if you have employers who are hiring you as an RTO to deliver training to their staff, or they are sending their staff to your training. So that they're the ones that should complete the employer satisfaction one. So I'll have a look at that form as well. So the employer satisfaction is how many did you distribute, how many have you got back, and then what is the response rate of that? Okay, when you're filling in this form, so the trends of response statistics, which student employer cohorts provided high-low response rates. So they want you to give some feedback to ASQA on what is the type of feedback that you're getting back. What is the response rate like, and how did response rates compare with previous years? So based on this surveys that were distributed and surveys that were returned, which student employer cohorts provided high-low response rates? So was it learner cohort that have a higher rate, or was it the employer that had a higher rate? How did response rates compare with previously? So what they want you to do is have a look at how, like the surveys that you're distributing in previous years, how has the response rate been this year compared to last year? So that's what they want you to review. If you never submitted a quality indicator annual summary report before, then you won't have any data to compare to. So they just want you to compare your data compared to previous years. Okay, survey information feedback, section 2. What were the expected or unexpected findings from your survey feedback? So basically what they want you to do is analyse the data that you've collected from these surveys and give some feedback on what you think, what was the expected things that you found. So with the feedback that they've provided you, was there things that you expected to hear, and what was unexpected? So they want you to analyse it and actually identify here what did you expect and what did you not expect from these findings in the survey. So they want you to give some feedback. So an example of that could be that what were the expected findings? Okay, it could be that you expected to receive data. I'm just going to bring up the form so that we can talk about quality. Okay, so no, don't want the guide. We want indicator survey. Oh, I must have downloaded the guide. Okay, so this is the guide that ASK will provide you when you're doing the survey form. Okay, survey guide. So it's the feedback that you're getting. No, we don't want that. We want the actual form. So where is the form? Yeah, questionnaire. Okay, so this is the survey form. So the quality indicator form, this is the one that you should be distributing to your students at least once through the course of their enrolment. So they want you to at least get them to complete it once during their course of enrolment, and then collecting the data from that feedback that you're collecting. Okay, so this survey is the AQTF Learner Survey that goes to students. So your students should be completing this form on a regular basis, once a year, sorry, once a course of enrolment. So they want to get feedback. They want you to collect feedback from your students about your training and what they strongly agree or disagree with. So it could be, so where we're talking about the report that quality indicator report that we're doing. So some of the expected or unexpected findings that you might find. So this is that you might get a lot of feedback where students disagree that they have developed the skills expected from this training. So if you found that unexpected, if you were getting a lot of feedback that students were strongly disagreeing, I would find that unexpected. Like I wouldn't be happy if my students were coming back to me and saying that they didn't develop the skills expected from their training and they strongly disagreed with that. So for me, that would be an unexpected finding. And if I was getting feedback like that on a regular basis, now you might get the odd student who will tick that they strongly disagree that they develop the skills expected from this training. You might get the odd one from students for that. I wouldn't expect to get that on a regular basis. So I'd find that unexpected. If I was getting that type of feedback, I'd be a bit worried that my trainers weren't delivering the training the way I would want the training to be delivered. So I'd really want to have a look at, well, why are our students not getting the skills that they expected from this training? Is it the way our trainers are delivering the training? So this is where you should be analysing the data and going, okay, why is students giving this type of feedback? Is it the trainer? Is it our training materials? Is it our assessment tools? So if I was getting a lot of strongly disagree, I'd actually be talking to the student and finding out why are we getting this type of feedback. So that's where you could then fill in here. Okay, it was unexpected that we would get student feedback from students saying that they didn't develop their skills expected from the training. So then they want you to put that in the feedback. So we weren't expecting that. And what does the survey feedback tell you about your organisation's performance? So if you've got a lot of disagrees, I would say, no, particularly in that one, if you're getting that one ticked, I developed the skills expected from this training and they strongly disagree. Why? Why did you get that sort of feedback? What is it that you need to improve on your practices based on that? So you should be looking at the data that you're collecting on a regular basis from these forms and identifying how you can improve your practices based on the data that you're collecting here from any of these. So students should be completing this at least once through the course of the enrolment. I recommend at the end of the course. If it's a long course, if it's a 1 year or a 2 year course, I'd do it maybe halfway through the year so that you're getting feedback early and not at the end of the course where you can't improve the training and assessment before the student has finished the course. You want to get this sort of feedback back early so that you can improve your practices. So if you have a 1 year or 2 year course, I'd be getting this survey distributed and feedback back from the students at least 6 months into the course. This is my recommendation only. ASK will only require you to get this form submitted, distributed to the student through the course of their enrolment or at the end of the course and get the feedback back by the end of the course. They don't really care when you're getting the form back as long as you're getting feedback forms back. I would recommend that you do it like halfway through the course so that you're getting feedback from the students, and then you're able to act on that feedback that you're getting from the students. So that's my recommendation there. But so, okay, so in the report, you should be going, okay, what was it? Did we get expected or unexpected findings? If it was expected, oh yeah, of course, we believe we're delivering good training. Or was it expected because you were having some issues with a trainer? So it could be that I didn't develop the skills expected from this training. Maybe you got that from a whole class of the one class, and you were expecting that feedback because you were having issues with that trainer. So that's an example of some feedback that you can put in there. Okay. What does the survey feedback tell you about your organisation's performance? So it could be that that trainer assessor was no good and that you needed to replace that trainer assessor. It could be that you think your practices are good. So it's up to you to fill in this. There's no right or wrong way to fill in this survey information feedback on this form. It's up to you what you put in there. What they want to do is see, so the next one, section 3, is how did you improve your practices based on that feedback that you received? That's what they want to see. How are you improving practices? That's the crux of the reason why you're submitting this annual report, is how are you improving your practices? And they want to see how you're doing that. So what preventative or corrective actions have you implemented in response to the feedback? So if you got one where you had a problem with a trainer, for example, the corrective action is that you replaced the trainer, or you did more training with the trainer. Some corrective action could be that you changed trainers and assessors, or you changed your training materials, or you changed your assessment tools based on that feedback that you got. How will you monitor, did you monitor the effectiveness of these actions? So if you took actions, if you got a new trainer, how are you monitoring, or how did you or will you monitor the effectiveness of replacing that trainer? Okay, so they just want you to basically give some feedback. Okay, what feedback did you get? And what improvement actions are you putting into place to improve practices based on that feedback? And that's it. So there's no right or wrong way to complete this form. It's just that you must complete it. You must complete this form and submit it to ASQA. Go to the Q&C manual for the process on how to submit the quality indicator annual summary, but it's basically you'll get an email from ASQA asking you to submit the report. It should be coming soon. It's due at the end of the month. So sometime this month, you'll get an email from ASQA stating that your quality indicator annual summary report is due, and it will tell you the process, but also go to the Q&C manual as well for how to submit your quality indicator reports. Now, this process might change this year. I'm thinking it will, compared to the Q&C manual, what we've got in the Q&C manual. Any of our clients out there who get this email, I'd love it if you could forward it to me, because I'd love to see what feedback you're getting, what's the email you're getting from ASQA, because we don't know, because we're not getting the emails from ASQA. If you get this email from ASQA, I'd love it if you could forward it to me so that I can see what you're getting from ASQA. If you can just send it to angela@vivacitycoaching.com.au. I'd love your assistance. This is me getting feedback from you. That's my email address. If you could forward that email to me so that I can improve our policies and procedures based on the process that ASQA are actually doing. So, yeah, if you get that email, please send it to me. Please, thanks. I'm just going to turn that webcam off. I just thought you should see me while I'm saying that. Okay. Yes, the reason why I think the process might change is because we've got ASQANet now. We didn't have ASQANet last year when you had to submit this report. I wouldn't be surprised if you have to submit your quality indicator summary report through ASQANet. In saying that, ASQA are having a lot of problems with ASQANet, so it may be through the old process, which was through NCVER, which is the same policy and procedure we have in the Q&C manual. But if it changed, I'd love to see if you get that email. If someone can forward that to me, that'd be awesome. Okay, so that's the quality indicator form. Any questions about that? Please post them in the chat box there. I'm going to go over time today, guys. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure that you get the feedback from that so that you know how to submit your VETMIS data report. Sorry, I'm just going to flick through. Don't know why it's taking me back to the start. Taking me to the wrong slide. Okay, so that's quality indicators. Got no questions? Sorry, my slides I'm getting a bit of a delay with my slides. Okay, so one of the other really important documents for improving your practices is this opportunity for improvement form. So the opportunity for improvement form can be completed by a student, a trainer, admin, staff, employers, anybody really. This is where anybody could see an improvement that could be made in your processes, your documents, your training and assessment. There's lots of different places where you could have an opportunity for improvement. So I'm just going to see if I can bring up the form. And I'm just going to share with you that form, sorry, and we'll have a better look at it. Okay, so this is the opportunity for improvement form. This form is a great way to get feedback from lots of different people. As you'll see on the form, it's coming up. Okay, the person filling in the form should fill in when did they identify an opportunity for improvement. The title of the opportunity for improvement is whatever they want to call it. So if they, so for example, we had an opportunity for improvement that came up within our RTO. It might be an assessment tool needs updating. So there was a change of legislation in aged care. That could be the title. And then the form was who completed the form, who's responsible. If you don't know, if the person filling in the form doesn't know, they don't need to fill this in. But it might be the RTO manager, it might be a trainer, assessor, it'll be whoever you have delegate as responsible for that. A student might fill this in and not know what the relevant standard is, so that's fine if they don't fill this section in, but you should fill in what the relevant standard is. And then every opportunity for improvement form should be entered into the OFI register. So that's where you would link the number in the register to this form. Okay, so a type of opportunity could be an improvement to the training and assessment practices or tools, assessment tools, so something to do with training assessment. It could be to do with client services, so how you're looking after your student. It could be your operations, so how you're operating. The improvement may have been identified through a feedback form from a student or employer. It could be through an internal or external audit, or it could be through assessment validation, or it could be just that someone identified an improvement. So on the opportunity for improvement form, this is where you should put what's details of the weakness. So anything that's an improvement is basically a weakness in your systems and practices. So what is the weakness? So for example, I've had this one before where it was a change in legislation. I mentioned aged care. There was a change in legislation in the Aged Care Act, and they actually changed the act and the name of the act. So the details of the weakness, for example, would be change in legislation of the act, and you'd put the name of the act there. Policy assessment tools are now out of date, or training and assessment tools are now out of date. And the action required would be to update the training and assessment tool to include the new act details. So that's just an example of how you could fill in this form. So as I said earlier, my recommendation when anybody has a problem or an issue or a concern that they want to submit to me, come up with a solution as well. So if a student may come up with a solution, but a trainer assessor should certainly come up with one. So the detail is of the weakness and the action required to improve it. So what suggestions do we should have to improve it? And then when do we take that action? And then that should be minuted at your Q&C meeting. So any opportunity for improvement forms should be minuted at your Q&C meeting, and it should be noted on this form, when did that happen? Was there a policy and procedure updated because of this opportunity for improvement? So yes, no. and was it what was the date it was entered into the Opportunity for Improvement register. Pretty simple form. It's just a feedback form on how to improve your practices, but it's where it gives you, everyone in the organisation, an opportunity to provide feedback on our documents. So it's a great document for recording opportunities for improvement in the organisation. Now, this document now that we're looking at is the Opportunity for Improvement register. So this is a simple spreadsheet that you can fill in. So you basically take that form, the Opportunity for Improvement form, and you can enter the details from this form into the register. So what date the form was completed, who completed it, the type of opportunity so this is the type of opportunity over this side. That's what you'd put in here is the type of opportunity. Outline of the weakness, so just a short detail of the weakness. You don't need to go into too much detail here. What was the outcome of the improvement here? When the date it was minuted at the meeting, was a policy and procedure updated, who's the person responsible, and if it's an ongoing thing, you can give a status update of how you're going with improving this practice. And that's basically an OFI register. That's all you really need to do with that. Okay, so we'll go back to the slides now. Also, guys, I know I've got a few more slides here, but that's basically that one. WHS incident is another one that this is a pretty basic form. It's just basically a WHS incident like in most other organisations, but this should be minuted at your monthly meeting. Complaints and appeals is another one. I'm not going to go into detail with this because we do a whole webinar on complaints and appeals, but this is one that should be minuted at your monthly meeting as well. So talking about meetings, you should hold regular meetings. In the policy and procedure manual, we recommend once a month as a minimum. You should be holding your quality and compliance meetings. Now, this will depend on how many students do you have? How often are you delivering training? If you deliver a lot of training, you might hold weekly meetings. If you don't deliver much training at all, you might hold a bi-monthly meeting. I wouldn't recommend more than bi-monthly. It should be, I recommend monthly, but no more than bi-monthly. You shouldn't hold them too far apart. And that's mainly because the information you're not reviewing on a regular basis then. If you leave it too far apart, you wouldn't be reviewing your data on a regular basis. So you should schedule for a regular day each month. So we, like the webinar that we have it on the first Monday of each month at 3 p.m. So you could do a regular meeting on the first or the last or Wednesday of the month or whatever you want to do, but as long as it's regular. Hold the meeting. Even if it's just one person who attends the meeting, get into the habit of holding the meeting. You could have your Q&C meeting while you're sitting with me at the webinar. That would be fine as well. But hold the meeting and minute that meeting. Record actual data collected. Watch this webinar before each meeting. So before you have your Q&C meeting, watch this webinar. This meeting ties together all your compliance and on a regular basis. And you have the process in your Q&C meeting. Thank you for everybody sticking around. I'm glad we've got everybody still here, which is good. This continual improvement cycle is when you're going to review a couple of the standards each month. So this month we're doing 2.1, 2.2 and DPR 6.1. This is in your Q&C manual. So it's at the front of your Q&C manual of when you're going to be reviewing a couple of standards. If you keep up with the webinars, I'm going to remind you, it's just by attending the webinar, you are continually improving your practices by reviewing your processes on what you're doing on a regular basis. Okay, so these are the documents for the meeting. So we have a meeting agenda document that we provide you, and we also have a meeting minutes document that we provide you as well, so to help you with managing your meetings. So we're actually going to be having a look at some examples of minutes that that we use for our Kickstart packages. It just gives you an idea of what the meeting minutes look like when they're completed. Okay, so we have regular agenda items that you should be reviewing on a monthly basis. So that includes industry consultation, trainers' feedback, quality indicator student feedback, the continuous improvement cycle, general administration and training issues, changes to training packages, opportunities for improvement register, WHS register, and complaints and appeals. So that's what we have as standing agenda items for your monthly meeting. Okay, all right, so next is annual orders. So I'm just going to switch you over to the Q&C meeting minutes template. So this it just makes a bit more sense with what we've got in there. Okay, so basically you fill in here who's facilitating, so who's going to manage this meeting, who will put the full name of all the people who are attending and the name of the minute taker. And basically you just put in, if there was previous business, you'd put that in here. Industry consultation, you minute that in here. So undertook industry consultation through surveys that were sent to key management staff from the whatever industry you're in. Over the last month, we met with the following people. So who did you meet with? What company? What did you talk about? What action are you going to take based on that meeting, and what did you learn at that meeting? That's basically what you do with industry consultation in the minutes agenda. You basically, who did I speak to? What did I learn? And what practices are we going to improve based on that feedback that we got or that industry consultation that we undertook? This is a way that you can formalize informal industry consultation into a formal process, is by minuting it. We get this all the time where people say, I'm consulting with industry all the time, but it's not a formal meeting. We just had a phone call, or we had a discussion in a hallway, or we met at a conference. There's lots of different ways that you can have informal industry consultation. This is how you formalize it. You formalize it by minuting it. Taking that, who did we speak to, what did we speak about, and what practices are we going to improve based on that industry consultation. Formalize it by putting into a minute. It's easy. And then any action that you're going to take. So feedback received from industry consultation to be incorporated into the training and assessment strategy. This is one that we get you to do for your initial registration. So it's just an example of how you can fill in your minutes for initial registration. If you had any trainers reports, so it's not applicable for initial registration, but you should input into here, what feedback did you get from your trainers reports? Any quality indicator forms that you've had distributed, what feedback did you get from there? So there might be some practices or opportunities for improvement identified. This continuous improvement cycle is basically that you've attended the webinar, and what are you going to improve based on following attending that webinar. General administration or training issues. This is just where you minute just some issues that you may have had in the last month and what action you're going to take. If there were any changes to training packages in the last month, you should minute that here. Changes to training packages will change about every 3 years. So you'll get an update to training packages. So you may have nothing here, might be not applicable. So you just put in here, no changes, no action required. If there was a change of training package, it might be that you need to do transition and teach out. So how are you going to transition and teach out your current students into the new qualification? Opportunities for improvement. Was there any opportunities for improvement submitted in the last month? And was it put into the register? What updates are you going to do? Same with WHS and same with complaints and appeals. And that's basically what you do with your minutes. If you didn't have a complaint or appeal, you just put no complaints and appeals were reported, not applicable. If you didn't have any WHS, just not applicable. You don't have to have something in there. You can just have not applicable if it was not applicable. And that's basically it when you're minuting. Okay. Any questions about your minutes and your meetings? For our Kickstart clients, we recommend you have at least 2 sets of minutes before you go to your first audit. So that demonstrates that you have implemented your policies and procedures before you go to audit. We give you 2 templates, that one I just looked at them, for your initial registration audit. So you just need to populate it with actual industry consultation that you've undertaken or any opportunities for improvement you've identified in the last month and things like that. Okay, so another thing that you could do to ensure that you're continually improving your practices is to have an annual internal audit, or what we call a systems check. So we come out and do a systems check of your RTO. So an annual audit will make sure that you are compliant with the standards on an ongoing basis. It's best if it's conducted by a third party or someone who's not involved within the RTO. That way you can have an outsider's view of looking at what's happening within your RTO. It helps with the with completion of your CEO stat deck that you've got to do once a year, and it gets you, you should get into the habit of conducting it on the anniversary or near the anniversary of your registration each year. This is the process that's in the Q&C manual. So if you go into the Q&C manual under Standard 2.2, you'll see the whole process for conducting an internal audit. That's just a snapshot of it there. I'm not going to go into detail. We're running out of time, or we've already run over time. We use the ASCA audit tool, and it's the one that we recommend that you use. This is an example of it that you just get from the ASCA website. As I stated, the ASCA are in the process of changing their audit tool, but it's not available yet on ASCA website. So I'm just going to show you where to go to get that form on the ASCA website. So I am just going to send you a link. So in the chat box, I'm just going to send you a link. If you click on that link, that'll take you to the forms and documents page on the ASCA website, and you'll see there are audit templates on that page. It's not there yet. It's coming soon. One of our consultants who works for us also works for ASCA. They had a moderation meeting last week, where they reviewed the new audit tool. So it's coming soon. So I know it's going to be released very soon. So we're going to keep an eye out for it. When it comes out, we'll let you know when the new audit tool comes out, because we're going to be reviewing the Q&C manual against the new audit tool. And it just hasn't been updated yet. But this is the tool. So you can just use this audit tool for conducting your internal audits. You just answer the questions that are in the audit tool. That's what we use. Okay, so Vivacity membership. So part of doing these webinars and you can just doing these webinars demonstrates continuous improvement and that you are undertaking professional development. In the membership, we also include updated Q&C manual, student handbook, trainer's handbook, and all the documents. The reason why I'm talking about this is membership also demonstrates that you're complying against Standard 2.2 just by having Vivacity membership, because you have access to monthly webinars, you have updated documentation, and you have access to a team of experts. All right, any questions? Thank you for sticking around a bit longer. I know I've gone over time, and I really appreciate your time for sticking around a bit longer. I don't think I've got any questions so far. I've mostly bamboozled everybody. But yeah, thank you very much for staying over time. As I said, when that audit tool comes out, is released, we'll email it to you, or not email, we'll notify you in some way of the new audit tool coming out. But thank you very much for attending today. It doesn't look like I've got any questions. Now, if you have any questions about anything else, anything, you can pop that in the chat box too. It doesn't have to be about what we talked about today. No, I haven't got anybody asking any questions. Right, next webinar. Now, the next webinar is scheduled for the 3rd of July, Monday the 3rd of July. Now, we're moving. So our whole office is moving on the Friday the 30th of June. So that date could change. We might move it to a Tuesday or Wednesday. We've actually been asked by a few of our clients if we could move the webinar to a Tuesday or a Wednesday, mainly because Mondays seems to be a hectic day for a lot of people. So mostly next month we'll move it to, and I'll let you know, we'll send you a invite if we do move it. I might be still capable of doing the webinar on the Monday afternoon, but we are moving. We're moving it the Friday the 30th. So please note, Friday the 30th, our phones might be down, our internet might be down. Hopefully everything's all working. The plan is we're actually moving on the Saturday the 1st of July. So the Monday we could have some issues. I'm going over to the new premises. I'm actually picking up the keys on Friday. We've got the internet already connected and phones already been connected, but we've got to get our new phone system all connected over there as well. So we'll let you know how we're progressing. But yeah, we're very excited to be moving into new premises. And it will be happening, at the end of this month. So big month this month. I'm moving personally as well as the office moving. And our new office is actually going to be my home base as well. So we're just, I'm going to have two homes, basically. I'm going to be commuting a little bit between the Central Coast and Newcastle, moving down to the Central Coast, as well as having an office base up in Newcastle as well. And our office is going to be there as well. So, yeah, thank you very much for attending today. I look forward to catching up with you next month. We'll let you know. It should be still on the Monday, but we'll let you know if there's going to be any issues or concerns and if we need to move it. But thank you for attending today. Please note that all webinars are recorded for your convenience and a copy will be emailed to you. It will be to you by tomorrow afternoon. Thank you very much for attending today, and I look forward to catching up with you again at next time. Thank you.